son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We have all your action from the Pure Michigan 400, where we will run 200 laps this weekend. The Fords were extremely fast in qualifying, and stage racing will go 60, 120, and then all the way to the finish. Remember, Kyle Larson here went 1-1 in the spring.
Interesting fact about Michigan is that there has been 96 total races here since 1969, making this one of the oldest tracks that they drive on. Since 2013, in 8 races, the winner has gone 1-1 5 times out of those last 8 races, which is a 62.5% clip. Chevy has also won 5 of those 8, winning the past 2 consecutive races, obviously with Kyle Larson.
Well, kids, we're supposed to have sunny skies and temps in the 70s when we go racing Sunday, August 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Now, we've had a lot of interesting things happen in the NASCAR community this week. We'll start with our new segment called NASCAR News. All right, guys. First of all, Kez is talking smack on JGR. This happened yesterday, saying basically that they are sandbagging this week on purpose to avoid NASCAR post-Michigan inspections.
I totally get it because, dude, Toyota's been dominating NASCAR the last handful of weeks. Between Martin Truex, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin. I mean, it's just been all about Toyota. So he's just trying to put them back on the radar, I think, to make NASCAR kind of look a little bit harder at them to see, if they're all within specifications and not taking advantage of any aerodynamics.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is if they are,
good for them.
Good for them. It's part of the strategy of NASCAR. Right. I feel like that's the origins of this sport, is trying to get an edge within the rules. Other than that, though, I don't have a problem. Now, something that most people have been taking severe umbrage with this week was Harvick's comments on Harvick's web show, where he talked about the fact that Dale Jr. is part of the problem with NASCAR. Now, he explained it very logically, and he said that the problem is NASCAR's most popular driver isn't the best driver. And Junior has only had 9 wins in the last 10 years, and that's bad for the sport. And he said, look at every other sport where the most popular guy is also one of the best athletes. All I need to say to that, though, is he was wrong. Remember Tim Tebow in football? That guy sold more jerseys than anybody and was a dumpster fire. I think it's 50-50. I'll explain my opinion here in a little bit. Liehr, what do you think of him talking smack on Junior?
Well, first of all, Tim Tebow, man, that guy won a playoff game, which a lot of quarterbacks that have ever played in the NFL can never say that. The way he played football, yeah, it didn't coincide with most coaches, theories and their particular formats on how they like to run their, the West Coast offense or anything like that. But when it comes to Harvick and Junior, man, I definitely respect Harvick. The guy's been around for a very long time, same as Earnhardt. But some of the things that he said, I mean, they're based on facts, which is really true. I mean, the guy's won 9 races in the last 10 years. A lot of his success and I think a lot of his popularity is all based on the last name. But that was, hard, gritty, earned by Senior, because that guy, tied the king for 7, championship titles over a period of time. And yeah, has Dale Jr. had the success that his dad has had? No, not even close. But is his popularity as popular as his dad? Yeah. And I think some of that has to correlate or go inside with, one, the tragedy that happened that, we saw one of the Hall of Famers of one of the best ever actually pass away doing what he loved to do. And I think that brought, some of that love for who he was as a NASCAR driver to people and drew them in even more. And then they even, maybe had a more of an inkling to like Earnhardt because of that fact. And he just kind of, Earnhardt definitely has not lived up to expectations. But has he been a dumpster fire? No, he hasn't been, horrible. But he hasn't been, great either. So I think his comments are just in certain ways. But and basically to make those comments at this time, I think is he could have chosen a different time to do that. Maybe after the season had occurred. I don't think he should have laid it out, with still, plenty of races left in the 2017 season. But, if it wasn't for Earnhardt Sr., Harvick may have never even got his chance to even race because he took over at RCR for him. So it's kind of a weird dynamic there between the two and how they correlate with each other. But hopefully, they can get in a room and talk. And but Junior took the comments like a man, like he should. And, did he disagree with him? Of course he did. He's going to. But the way and the manner that he did it, I mean, obviously the guy's got tons of respect for me. So,
yeah, dude. To be honest, I thought it was classy both ways. Now I understand that Harvick's doing it in his last year, which is kind of bad. But Harvick didn't go opinionated. He was straight on the facts. And I think something that Harvick and NASCAR's problem is because the fan base was all on the Earnhardt name. Right, when he leaves, I don't think those fans are just going to transfer to other drivers, and I think that has sponsors freaking out, and that could be why Harvick's speaking out a little bit, is because we've already seen Target pull off of Larson for next year. NASCAR's having issues with sponsors, and I think when you pull the most favorite driver out of the sport because he's retiring, I think that's causing sponsors to panic, and I think that's where a lot of this is coming from, and if NASCAR doesn't do something about it, they may have an issue sponsorship-wise next year for several of the drivers. Because if you're an advertiser and the sport is literally losing its most popular driver, that would give me a moment to think twice about investing my advertising dollars in the sport. I'm just being honest about that. So like I said, I really respect both guys. They handled it really, really well. Not like I said, I'm not sure Harvick's just not spot on with this, and that's the problem that I think most people are taking umbrage with, is that the truth often hits really close to home.
Yeah.
All right.
Sometimes it's hard to swallow, but I mean, it is what it is.
Right. The last little bit of NASCAR news, and then we'll get into the picks, is that Casey Kane is officially out, but will be receiving a paycheck regardless from Hendrick next year. And William Byron is in with the Liberty University sponsored car. Liehr, what are your thoughts on the youngin coming up and coming?
Well, man, first and foremost, the crazy part is we're talking about three guys right now with Kurt Busch, who's the Daytona 500 winner. You got Casey Kane, who's looking for a ride next year, who's the Indianapolis winner, and then you also have Matt Kenseth, who's right now in the playoffs, no wins, but in the playoffs currently,
and a former champion.
Yeah, and a former champion. All three looking for work next year. Crazy, but the sport is transitioning to the younger generation, and I think overall for NASCAR that is a good thing to happen. But also the crazy part is I'm kind of heartbroken because Casey Kane was the first guy that I loved when I got into NASCAR, when he was driving the number 9 Dodge for Ray Evernham, and to see him transition over to Hendrick, that was I thought he was going to be in that car for a long, long time, and he was. His 6-year run was a good run, but he just didn't quite have the success. And if he doesn't get that kind of, I think Indianapolis. I mean, wouldn't you say that it's kind of a fluky win? But if he doesn't have that, then yeah, I mean, he hasn't been close all year, and every year it's always expectations, and he never lives up to them. So I wonder what'll happen to him if because right now we're looking at, is RCR still going to have the 27 next year? Because Hendrick was talking about having him go into he's looking out for him for a ride next year. So some sort of affiliate, but we'll see what happens there. But I'll get real quick on the youngins. I mean, over at Hendrick Motorsports, you got Jimmy Johnson, who's going to be the old man driving with the 3 young bucks between Alex Bowman, William Byron, and Chase Elliott. At least Chase Elliott's got a couple of years under his belt, but that team's all, circling around back to the younger talent. But I think overall in the series, I mean, we're going to have, guys, at least almost 10 cars that have less than, 2-3 years experience in the series. So it is definitely transitioning over to the younger generation. And that's good because, sometimes that's what you need to get new blood and new life into the sport. And, I think it's definitely a good move overall for NASCAR, and hoping that and done well with their money, and and reinvest back into the sport.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like kind of fun because now we get the old guys crew that guys like our age get to root for, right? We'll be able to root for the Jimmies and the Rowdies, while all the youngins can root against the next generation to take those guys down. And I think it'll be I think it'll be really good and refreshing for the sport of NASCAR, and hopefully something that can help grow NASCAR as a sport and get it back trending in the right direction of gaining fans. All right, Liehr, we got through the NASCAR news segment. There was a lot this week. I don't think we'll have that much news every week. But, Liehr, it's time to burn some rubber, Michigan style.
Before I get started, everybody, obviously, that watches this show or watches NASCAR is a automobile fan. I definitely urge you, if you're not going to be home, but, DVR it. But tomorrow is the start of the Cars That Made America. It's going to feature everything from Henry Ford to the Dodge brothers, Chevrolet, all of that. So I highly recommend that on History Channel, starting tomorrow at 7 Central on History on August the 13th, which is tomorrow night. So, but
nice History Channel plug, Liehr.
Yeah, but if you're an automobile guy, Michigan is the state that started it all. So.
True that.
Michigan style horsepower, baby!
Yes, and it will be all about horsepower this weekend as cars are going to get up to 218 plus miles an hour, as we've seen on the track, heading towards turn 1. The speeds are crazy, and it's an interesting track. Liehr, who do you have to burn some rubber this week, buddy?
Man, I'm actually going back to the well from last week. I know we're transitioning majorly from road course racing to this 2-mile oval at Michigan, but I got to go with the guy that has got the momentum right now, and I'm going to be going with Brad Keselowski. The Penske number 2 has had a good 2017 season, and also a good fantasy season for sure as well. This week he heads obviously back home to his state of Michigan. He's also the Coors Light pole winner for tomorrow's race. So that's going to be pretty significant, as everybody knows in the intro that I said 5 out of the last 8 drivers starting at Michigan have gone 1-1. That is huge for history here. But this team has been on a pretty good streak of the last 3 weeks. Last week they almost won, but obviously had to pit with a few laps left, because of the fuel issue. But if they would have strategized that better, they could have taken that down easy. But he's not won here at his home track in 16 starts. He's got 5 top 5s and 8 top 10s. His cost this week is ranked 7th in salary at $9,400. So his cost is actually down $400 from last week. And being the pole sitter, I think his ownership percentage will be large. But I'll be honest, in my gut, I think that he's got a legit shot at being a complete dominator this weekend. Just from start to finish, dominating this race. It's been a long time since Kez has been in the winner's circle this year. He does obviously have some wins under his belt this season, but it's been quite a while. So, with these larger tracks, he's always really, really good. But plug him, play him this weekend. He's due for a dominating performance. And obviously, with his qualifying time, they've got the speed. That team is dialed in just for one little thing last week, and they would have been sitting on another win. So I think with the way that things trending for the number 2, I have no doubts that he'll be in victory lane come tomorrow.
Wow, no doubts. Well, I'm going to temper that back quite a bit, as even though this is his home track, he's never even sat on the pole here, much less won this race. He hasn't even finished second. He's got 3 third-place finishes, and that's it. Liehr, without looking, how many laps has Kez led at Michigan ever? The most in a race. Just take a guess.
Well, the way you're portraying that, I'm going to assume it's minimal. So let's just throw out a guess of 30.
Yeah, not even close. 17.
Really?
The most laps he's ever led on this track is 17. I just don't see him being a dominator. Look, he and Logano looked fast this week, and he might be a top 10 car, but he's not the fastest sport on that track. It's Ryan Blaney who messed up his lap. And speaking of which, I think that transitions well into my burning rubber pick, and I'll let you defend yours a little bit after I get through my guy. But guys, the fastest car on the track clearly was Ryan Blaney. The Wood brothers have got this car dialed in, and it was in a league of its own during qualifying. He was top of the board through round 1, top of the board through round 2, and on round 3 got a little bit out of the groove in turn 1. And when you do that, it's going to mess up the entire lap. However, when he shattered his time, that is awesome news for us as fantasy owners, because that means he's starting 12th. And he clearly has the best car. This car should be good for place differential. I have this car leading several laps this weekend, maybe even being the possible dominator that you need. I love Blaney. I love this Wood Brothers car. What was funny is if you watch qualifying, both Kez and Logano were like, yeah, I don't know what happened to Blaney. He was clearly the best car out. So I'm going to saddle up with the best car out and saddle up with Blaney at 8,700. Liehr, your thoughts, and let you defend Kez a little bit?
Team Penske, eh?
Yeah, a little bit.
So, dude, I don't have a problem with Ryan Blaney. I think he's he's definitely up and coming. Guys, had a tremendous second year in the circuit. He's got 5 career races here at Michigan. He does have one top 5, and that was last year at this race. He finished 4th after starting 7th. So, but doesn't have a lap led underneath his belt. But it's all about the speed, like we talked about, and the horsepower here. So he definitely has a good shot at getting up there towards the front. For me, it's more of a place differential guy, not a dominator guy. But the other thing that kind of scares me off a little bit about Blaney is so far this season, he has not posted back-to-back top 10. So last week he did finish in the top 10. He almost snuck the win out last week, which would have been another crazy thing. But, of course, he had to fuel with just a handful of laps left. So, no, at $8,700, man, I think that's going to be one of those plays where he's not going to be crazy high owned. He shouldn't be crazy low owned. So he'll probably be one of your, 20%, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit higher than that, probably between 15 to 20. But if he comes and performs, that could be a separator for you. So I'm definitely going to at least try to have some exposure to Ryan Blaney this weekend.
Dude, I wanted to compliment you on that sneaky stat. That was awesome. He has that back-to-back top 10s this year. I don't know. Maybe I need to temper my expectations, but that car looks fast, man. It looked like they had a rocket tied to the back of it, man. It was just blowing people away. All right, Liehr, we kind of went through, and we're all on Team Penske, right? So my question is if you don't have a Penske driver, what driver would you pick to burn rubber outside of the Penske guys? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, it's it's pretty clear, folks. We're still looking at the guys that have been, pretty much dominators all season this season. Truex, the guy, won again last week. That team is just insane right now. They are unbelievable. Never count them out. They've literally been a must-own for weeks upon weeks now. Mm-hmm. So you've got to look at Martin Truex. Obviously, he's the highest costing driver. You've got Kyle Larson, who basically, is another guy that he's won twice the last 2 races here at Michigan. This track type seems to suit exactly what he likes to do. Mm-hmm. He's been off, the last handful of weeks, starting 9th, and Truex is starting 13th. So, you got a couple guys there that are dominating that will give you place differential as well. And then, I'll leave you to your boy to talk about him. But, as far as anybody else, you got Kevin Harvick starting 3rd. He's always a play here. And then you even got Jimmy Johnson, starting way back in 22nd. But that team has been really off the last month, 5 weeks, something like that. So even though he's got great place differential, you still may get a sneaky bargain at ownership percentage wise for him because, a lot of people play off trends, and that's just one of those drivers that, he just hasn't been doing well. But God, I got to stop saying I have that bad habit, folks, and I know you guys hear it every single week. And I watch the show, and gosh, do I really say it that much? But yeah, I'm trying to work on it, just to let you know. So, but as far as anybody else, Daniel Suarez, guy starting 16th, and then you also got Eric Jones starting 8th. Both of those guys, they're both rookies, but both of them every single week, they always seems to be in the winning lineup, and regardless of where they're starting at. So, got to look at those guys too. So, don't be shocked, with any of the exposure on any of those guys. My main concern would be Kyle Larson, Martin Truex, and go ahead, your boy.
Yeah, and what's funny is Kyle Larson is top of the board in practice too. So now, granted, the track temperatures are way lower than what they should be when we go racing on Sunday. But Larson, Keselowski, Johnson, Blaney, Elliott, Jr., Jones, Rowdy, Kurt Busch, Truex are the top 10 so far in second practice averages that just flashed on the TV. I like Rowdy, and the thing is if they're not sandbagging this weekend, like Rowdy and Truex have just been so much better than the rest of the field. I don't know how you can fade them, right? And I don't know. Part of me wants to build lineups with them, like with Rowdy, Truex, and Blaney. That's part of where my gut's been leading me this week after qualifying.
And the other crazy one that I didn't talk about, his teammate Matt Kenseth, the guy's starting 4th, but he's tied. Well, I'm sorry, not tied, but he's the active driver that has the most wins here at 3. In 36 races, he's got 14 top 5s and 20 top 10s. He could be a sneaky play in that 4th position. What if he goes out there and just, has a dominating performance? And he obviously needs a win to lock himself into the playoffs. So he's right there on the cusp of making it. So pressure's on the number 20 team this week, and definitely Matt Kenseth, because as the season moves on, we still have not heard anything about what his plans are for 2018. So I think if he wants to lock himself up in a ride next year, especially at his age, he's got to get a win.
No, and the 14 top 5s is really interesting because it tells me that I'm not necessarily afraid to start him at 4th, right? Like that he likes to finish in that range, and that may be good enough if we get the right split of dominators. Right, like for example, if Kez dominates half of this race and Blaney does, or if it's Truex or Rowdy, as long as it splits up between those guys, you may need a guy that's in the top 5 to get some points. Now, normally that doesn't happen, and that's normally not the case because normally everybody shuffles around. But if you're getting a guy in the top 5 that's going to finish in the top 5, that might actually get it done as long as you locate the dominators and the good place differential guys from the outer reaches of the place. All right, Liehr. Well, I think that covers Burning Rubber. I think we did it justice, even without a third man. I think we covered all the legitimate plays for the most part. It's time for some value. Liehr, razzle dazzle us with a great value pick, buddy.
Well, definitely, guys. Appreciate you guys last week. I know that we talked about giving this away, the SpongeBob SquarePants, Michael McDowell, Kansas. I think this is 2015. So thank you for all your comments, your thumbs ups, definitely the views. We always appreciate it, guys. Sorry I haven't been the best of interacting. It's just been crazy between work and trying to do fantasy and spending time with the family on the weekends and getting chores done, like you're supposed to do. But I do appreciate you guys, especially too, with the last handful of weeks having qualifying the same day as the race. Thank God we are back to the normalcy of how everything goes. So, but we're going to be giving that away today. I've got all the names right here that I've written down and cut out. I'm going to put in the hat. We'll save that later on for the end of the show. But yeah, man, I'm gonna be rolling with Michael McDowell in the number 95 Levine Family Racing Chevy this week as my value play. McDowell definitely does not have a ton of experience here at Michigan with only 5 races under his belt. But with the last start here at Michigan being back in 2013, there have been a few factors as to why I'm choosing him as my value play. His cost, like we talked about before, is usually around the $6K mark, coming off that large salary last week from the road course. But he comes back down to reality, back down to earth. to the $5,600 price point. And the other nice factor here is he's starting 26th. And Michael does not have, like we talked about, great stats. You know, his best finish was 23rd here last year after he started 22nd. So, you know, that's not a huge place differential by starting 26 and his best finish being 23rd. But this car, man, this season has been a top 20 car. It really, really has for a small team. And that is, you can't find much more value in that at a $5,600 price point. But definitely this weekend, I think with his low salary and where he's starting at, I definitely think he's going to get a top 20, and he's definitely going to pay off for value this week for sure.
Dude, I completely agree with you. This car has finished teens week in and week out, and that's amazing. I was telling you on the phone the other day that if I was in charge of a team, I would give Michael McDowell one of my open rides. If I was that, like, if I was JGR, that would be who I was sliding into that spot, just because I think he's proved it. Anybody that can use lesser equipment and still finish above where he should, basically week in and week out, to me, that's a driver that needs to get a better chance. And
no, I mean, he's had, you know, the last 3 races, he's had top 20 finishes, last 3. I mean, this guy definitely, you know, I think the larger teams, you know, they love to look at their lower tiered guys like an Xfinity and Truck, you know, with like this William Byron and all these younger guys coming up. But Michael McDowell still, he's not a, you know, crazy young driver, but, you know, he's not like he's, you know, crazy old either. So, right. You know, he's definitely a great driver, and I think he definitely deserves a shot at being in one of those upper echelon vehicles, teams.
Yep, I agree with
like
you.
If you're Richard Childress, why aren't you calling him about your 27 opening?
No, I agree. I would put him in the RCR car. Like, I would use it to fill Menard's spot, and I think that would be better for his team. So I guess it's my turn to do some value, and I'm going to give you guys a group of value plays this week because, you know, that's how I like to do it. Let's be honest. These value guys are kind of, other than McDowell, and that's even a question mark this week because he hasn't had a great set of finishing. We're going to go back to the staple of all RCR cars are in play pretty much. Newman starting 25th, Menard starting 30th, Ty Dillon starting 33rd. It was a lack of top-end speed that had all these RCR cars off the pace. I feel like we've been to this movie before and seen it, and if we're good, we've been making money off of these RCR cars, place differential wise, as long as our lead cars don't wreck, right? They sped up a little bit in happy hour in practice too. As long as they continue to speed up and look good in happy hour, I'm all about rostering them. Somebody else I would look to roster in the value tier is Bain at 6,700. He's starting 21st and coming off of destroying fantasy lineups with a broken brake line last week. I was 100% on Bain starting 30th last week. Destroyed my lineups. I think this week he could be a difference maker and sub 10% owned. People usually hop off a driver that screws them. And keep in mind, Sticky Ricky looks really fast and should have actually made the top 12, but both of them were a little bit loose and missed their lines at times. Another great source of value could be AJ Allmendinger this week, starting 29th. Keep that in mind for place differential as well. Basically, guys, those are the place differential plays and the value plays. You got to figure out which ones you want to go with this week. Liehr, your thoughts on the slew of guys that I just listed off?
I mean, Ty Dillon, anytime that guy starts in the mid-30s, which that seems what he's been doing, he's always going to be at play and always a large pick of other people within the industry as well. But, you know, you got Paul Menard, 30th. I love AJ Allmendinger, 29th. I mean, guy's just been consistent. Last week was his quote-unquote ultimate chance to take off. Still had a top 10 finish, but now he comes back to reality in what we mostly race here on the Monster Cup circuit. So anytime you got AJ starting that high, I mean, that's a no-brainer. But yeah, David Reagan, any of those guys. As far as like the lower tier guys, to be quite honest with you, I think that Daniel Suarez is a value play is even starting at 16th. And I do like your Ricky Stenhouse at 14th as well. But Casey Kane, a lot of people may think that is value, 23rd. But I don't know. He doesn't seem to all of his mojo and everything that he had going just this week. So I don't know how well he's going to do. But there's definitely plenty of value out there. It's about picking those guys that make sure you check the happy hour times and then the 10-lap averages, because those are going to be key in picking the correct guys.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. The Kane play may be an interesting one. There's just all these plays are what they are. The problem is that most people like to punt even below this. And guys, I want to give you a heads up. If you look at the track history of Michigan, most of the severe punts don't do anything here because, as we've said, it's all about horsepower, right? And those cars go down laps quickly. You need to be able to stay on the lead lap here to have any sort of a chance. And basically, McDowell in that line. I'm not even comfortable really with Reagan and Castle this week, as they're going to struggle to stay on the lead lap, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I like I said, I think Allmendinger is definitely going to be one of those guys that'll stay up there. He'll stay on that lead lap.
Oh yeah, like all the guys we talked about. I'm just saying the value that we left off that's cheaper than what we talked about. That's where you get sketch at a track like Michigan, where horsepower really matters. All right, kids. Well, we actually have qualifying thanks to NASCAR going back to the normal schedule. That means we get to send somebody to the garage. However, when Liehr and I were talking on the phone, we both agreed to send the same person to the garage, which is crazy because we're all over his teammates. Liehr, who are we sending to the garage this week, buddy? I'll let you do the honors.
Thanks, bub. Hey, I know where this pick is going to go with everyone. You're choosing Kez as your burning rubber, but his teammate who's starting right behind him to the garage. Well, yes, I am. The 22 teams obviously been disappointing in 2017. They are not in the playoff chase right now. And honestly, I don't see them getting there either. Last week was a good chance for Logano, and they had another very disappointing week. They struggle week after week, and basically they need a win, and they're in. If he doesn't make it to a win, he doesn't make it into the playoffs. He's not going to be able to earn enough points to make it to the playoffs. Now, granted, this is one of Joey's Donut's best tracks with 17 starts. He's got 2 wins, 5 top 5s, and 12 top 10s. In his last 9 races here, he has 7 top 10s, with 4 of those being top 3 finishes. This week his cost is $9,000, which ranks him 10th in the DraftKings salary range. I know he will get some exposure this weekend based on his history, based on his starting position, and I get all that, and I understand it. But in my opinion, this team is going to stay at the same trend that they've been on. I don't see anything changing that direction. He's not going to be a play this weekend. I promise you, roll with somebody else this weekend because Logano's just not going to be the guy that's going to get the win, be the dominating performing guy. Not going to do it for your fantasy lineups. Just not going to do it.
Yeah, I'm probably going to terrify all of you out there, but I completely agree. And usually when Liehr and I agree on the going to the garage play, that means it's a play that you have to make. So
he wins.
Yeah. So, I mean, Joey Bag of Donuts has no business starting second. Like, I can't believe that car's up there, as bad as that team's been all. And yes, I understand he's teammates of both of our burning rubber picks, basically. But I would rather play Blaney and fade Logano. And to be honest, I'm not even sure that this isn't the week to fade both of the cars on the front row. I know that's statistically not something that usually happens in NASCAR, but like I said, Kez doesn't lead laps here, and Logano's been a dumpster fire as of late. Blaney's the fast car. I can get it way cheaper. That's the route I feel like I'm going this week, and I instinctually wrote down send Joey Bag of Donuts to the garage too. I just don't see a scenario in which he's not going backwards and losing points going negative. So.
Yeah, that's my race vision as well. I just see him going back or having some sort of issue. But the crazy part is Team Penske was obviously between Blaney, Keselowski, and Logano all showing speed this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be one of those things where you're going to have to pick and choose your battles for your drivers. And I'm just, based on the trends and based on that team, I just don't see it for the 22.
No, ever since he failed that post-inspection, he has not been right. That team has not been right. And
that's been forever ago.
Right, I would much rather use a vision where I have Kez dominating a portion of the race, or Harvick, or Rowdy, or Truex, or Blaney. Like any
Larson.
of those cars I see, or Larson, I see any of those cars having a greater potential to dominate than Logano. And with him starting second, that's why I've got to send him to the garage. I'm with you, man. So, Liehr, let's draw the winner and then maybe talk a little bit of strategy, what we're looking at for this week, and get out of here.
All right. So, you guys get to see my mug this morning.
Oh, dude, nice hat hair, by the way, dude. That is gorgeous.
It's talented.
You got some flowing. You got some flowing locks going on in the back. Are you trying to start the Mike Piazza mullet back there, bro?
I'm doing my best Brian Blaney impression.
Okay.
So, as you can see, I've got all different names.
Yes.
Listed on here.
Mostly we're seeing your fingers, but yes, we do it.
All right. So they're going into the hat.
Going into the hat. Shake that stuff up, man. Get it good.
Get it. So I also put numbers next to the names. Will this number coincide with the winner this weekend?
Man,
you shall see.
Liehr going Rain Man on a second level. I think we've jinxed ourselves by both of us sending Logano to the garage.
And the winner is
Gouda.
And the number 19.
Wow. You know, Suarez has been running awesome this week, this week, yeah.
And he's starting 16th.
Right. As much as I like that Suarez is here and running, I miss Carl, man.
Oh, I hear you.
I miss cousin Carl. All right,
but,
Liehr.
Gouda, hit me up on Twitter. Send me a direct message and send me your information.
Mm-hmm.
And I will send you the car, my friend.
Yep, we'll get that diecast out to you ASAP. And that is awesome. Congrats, Gouda, on winning that diecast. Remember, anytime we do a giveaway, you got to like, be subscribed, and comment. Like, that's the way we roll here. And we try to give away some pretty cool stuff. And I think we've got another really sweet giveaway that we're going to do here in a couple weeks. Maybe even an autographed piece of Harvick memorabilia if I can convince Liehr to part ways with one. All right, Liehr, let's talk a little bit of strategy this week. How are you seeing the race breaking down?
If we get over 1,000 views, that will be on the table.
All right. There you go. You heard it. So you guys have to do your work and get it out there. Help share it and get it to other people, because when we get to 1,000, we will put one of our autographed Harvick diecast up for a giveaway. All right, Liehr, what is your strategy this week, bud?
Basically, man, my strategy is going to be, I'm going to be rolling with, obviously you want, with the amount of laps that you have here, there's going to be at least 2 dominators, in my opinion, maybe even possibly 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to Kez, quite a few, just because I think he's going to get up front, stay out front for quite a while. Then you need to get some of your place differential dominator guys in there who maybe in the second segment is going to lead a bunch of laps. So in my opinion, that's probably going to be like a Kyle Larson, somebody like that, or even a Rowdy. But at least 2 top 10 starting guys, 1 or 2 in the teens, and then 1 or 2, probably 2 real big place differential guys in the 20s there. Maybe like a Michael McDowell and AJ Allmendinger. Maybe mixing in some Ty Dillon, some of that. But, and then Daniel Suarez, I'm going to have some exposure on that guy this week.
I like your strategy. I think I may differ. I think for the most part, I'm going to have maybe a couple Kez lineups, but I'm going to fade the front row for the most part this week. I don't trust the front row this week. I don't like the front row to lead, and I love me some cars starting fourth on back, right? Starting with Harvick. There's just too many good cars that I think are going to perform better. And I can get good place differential without getting super crazy. There are some really smart plays you can make this week and in the value area that I love what it does with lineups. And because we actually had everybody qualify and there's not a superstar starting at the back of the field, there's a lot of strategy in play this week, and ownership percentages are going to be interesting. I think a lot of people are going to tout Kez and Logano, and I think this is the only show where you're going to see somebody sending Logano to the garage, because I'm guessing a lot of people are going to tell you Logano has great track history here and whatnot. I'm fading him, and if that hits me in my pocketbook and my bankroll, so be it. But I'm going to fade Logano, and like I said, I'm going to have limited exposure on Kez. I think I'm hitching my wagon to Blaney and Truex. I think that's where I'm leading.
More power to you, brother.
Right. Well, it'll either be really profitable or I will light my money on fire. But that would be no different than last weekend when all of my Bane lineups went up in flames in the first lap.
And Dale Earnhardt was a dumpster fire for me.
I tried to tell you, dude. I tried to tell you.
You did.
Let's say our goodbyes and get out of here, man. You got to get to Iowa, to this Iowa State Fair.
Well, thanks everybody for watching the show. Again, we appreciate you guys watching week in, week out. So back to some normalcy this week. So I'm assuming we'll have some pretty large fill-ups of tournaments this weekend. So that should be good. But going to be fun to watch over at Michigan. Always good racing over there. Like we said, just horsepower and just pure racing. That's what I love. These short tracks and where it's bump and run, and I just love the pure speed of the sport. That's always been the thing that I've loved the most. So, but definitely, if you guys hit us up and let us know if you have any questions. And again, we appreciate you watching the show. Congratulations to Gouda. Again, hit me up, and hope you guys have a great weekend. And off to the Hawkeye State I go to go play on some carousels and see some farm animals and have some fried Oreos.
Yeah, dude, I would stick to the fair food and not the rides. Like, did you see that video of what happened on that ride in Ohio?
Yeah.
Man, talk about brutal. Like, just try to have a good time at the fair, and, the ride breaks, and, people go flying off, and, that's just crazy stuff.
It's what you get when you ride rides that actually have wheels that are, pulled by cars and not permanently in the ground.
That's the problem with fairs, right? Those rides literally drive across the country. I barely trust vehicles when they get around 15, 20 years old. Can you imagine an amusement ride that's been traveled? Oh, well. Regardless, guys, thanks for watching as always. Remember to like, share, subscribe in case you're not. And remember, guys, we're going to give out that Harvick autographed diecast if we get to 1,000 views. And I'm talking about real views, not this fake subscriber stuff that other people have and where they pay for views. We know you guys actually view our show and watch it. So let's get to 1,000. We don't have to pay for fake stuff here. Thanks for watching, guys. Later, y'all.
Have a great weekend, everybody.